What's up, everyone? It's Alex Ragir, co-founder of Storyhunter. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm off to Orlando, where we're going to be at the Association of National Advertisers Conference. I'll be speaking with Charlie Chappell, who's the head of media for Hershey's company. That means he manages the advertising for brands like Hershey's, Jolly Rancher, and Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
In the media side, you place the ads, right?
Exactly.
And so now this whole, as you transition to digital, how does that job change in terms of your relationship with the creative side?
Oh, it's a big change because everybody knows the media marketplace is fragmenting. So we have to put our ads in a number of different places. And it used to be you would make one TV ad, one print ad, and you could run them across everything. Now what we're finding is to get the most out of a lot of the digital platforms, we need to understand how does creative best work there and tailor the creative to work on those particular platforms.
Yeah, so you have to be putting out more content more consistently.
Yeah, and at times that can be a little scary because as soon as you start saying I need more and different content, people think, oh my gosh, that's going to run up my costs, that's going to be complex, it's going to take more time. So what we're trying to find is that balance of how to do that efficiently versus just creating 1,000 different pieces of content, which can get cost prohibitive.
What have you been seeing like over the past 18 months in terms of what's been performing or what's been changing in media?
Yeah, it's interesting because fundamentally what has always worked for us doesn't change. Like we're talking about candy. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about something like that, you want to show delicious food, taste appeal, something that drives a, wow, I really want to have something of that right now. And that still stays the same. It's just how it gets delivered. So maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that was all done on traditional TV. Now there's video everywhere. I mean, everybody knows about YouTube, obviously, but we're looking for more and more places where we put that in. So for example, we're starting to get into things like gaming and esports. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of young men who spend a lot of time there and saying, how do we bring our products to life on that particular platform like Twitch or a lot of it's on Twitter or on YouTube gaming, so places like that.
What do you see kind of moving forward? How do you see the landscape changing?
I think the biggest landscape that's changing now is a lot of marketers have sort of made the move into digital. What they're dealing with now, and they're seeing the benefits from that, what they're dealing with now is how do they optimize for that? And this gets back to the idea of, you know, I have to make bespoke content for almost every channel that's out there to make it work well. And that's the dilemma of how to do that efficiently and effectively without taking too much time to do it all. So I think that's going to be, and also in these digital platforms, there's a lot of data that gets kicked off about what's performing and what's not. Mm-hmm. That's used a lot to optimize the media. How can it now be used to optimize the creative? And I think for many people who are in the creative world, that scares them a little bit because they feel like it's taking out the human element of it. But I don't think you can lose that. So I think that's what marketers going forward have to figure out, how to leverage the data and technology for what it can do, but still keep the human creative element so they're making great work.
Yeah, so there's a lot of storytellers and story hunters and creatives watching. Maybe you could help give us an example of some insight that you would gather that you would be like, I need creative quick around that concept.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is now we can get data back of different ads we're running, like are people watching it all the way through? Are they dropping off at a certain point? Is something performing better than something else? And I think you have to look at that. If you're the creator of that content, that may hurt a little bit to see that data. I can tell you as a media person, you know, I buy something and it doesn't work. That hurts a little bit too. But let that data, that feedback be a gift. To help you to get better in what you're doing. It can also work in your favor because someone may say, I don't think this is creative is any good. You know, it's not going to work, and they kill it before it even runs. I think you can say, let's just run it. Let's see what the data says, and it might actually prove that your intuition is right.
One thing that's been interesting talking to a lot of people for this show is, you know, you have the media agencies, you have the PR firms, you have all of these companies moving in after the same business, essentially your business or companies like yours. How do you see that, or where do you see the advantages? Or
Yeah, it is a changing world. Everybody's getting into everybody's space. It is incumbent upon the marketer to manage that. And a little competition isn't a bad thing. But I think it has to be properly managed, expectations have to be set, but it also kind of puts pressure on everybody to up their game. So I actually kind of like it from that standpoint. If someone isn't evolving in the space today, they're going to be left behind from that standpoint, at least. So I'm always looking for any of my partners to kind of come to the forward edge with me, you know, as we move into the space and figure out, and as we always say, it's like we have to figure out this future together for everybody's sake.
has there any been something like surprising that you're like, this piece of content really worked and it was kind of a surprise, or really didn't work and you thought it would?
I think something that we've been surprised with is how in digital media we can be successful with very short pieces of content, which I think, you know, and especially, but if you only rely on such short pieces of content, getting down to even 6 seconds or shorter, and you don't also layer on top of that some sort of storytelling, a longer form, 15 or even like YouTube videos, longer stories, you're going to miss a deeper interaction with your consumer. So it isn't always about, sometimes it's about the efficient media buy, the shorter duration, it works quick, I don't have to pay as much money for that in media, and you need some of that, but you have to lay over on top of that some of the longer form things to still build that connection with your consumer versus just splashing logos in front of them all the time.
You represent some brands that are sort of integral to American culture,
Yeah.
Reeses, Jolly Ranchers, Hershey's.
Yeah.
How do you tell stories to continue to reinforce that or be part of that story?
Yeah, you know, part of it is just seeing what is going on in culture today and where can you play a role in being a part of telling that stories or things that happen. And sometimes it's taking things you're naturally a part of and doing it differently. So, of course, our brands are a big part of Halloween. Last year, right at the end of Halloween, we did this little event where we called it Candy Converter, which is we set up a vending machine in New York City where people could come and bring Halloween candy that they didn't want, and if they put it into the vending machine, they actually got back a Reeses Cup. And it wasn't so much about the people who came down and did it, but it was the fact that we did do it, and the press just went crazy telling the story. People wanted to do interviews. They thought this was the greatest thing ever. So it's that different way of sort of bringing the brand to life.
The full.
Oh yeah, it was one cup.
Reese's?
Yeah, it was,
Okay,
and
okay,
I won't comment on what people turned in to get Reese's as well. That was always interesting. But yeah, it's taking that different spin so people see sort of a fresh take versus just saying, "Oh, Reese's, we're the #1 Halloween candy." You can't just keep saying that over and over again.
What are the things that, like the hot topics that everyone's talking about, where you think, you know, not that that you don't really believe, that people should really not listen so closely to?
I think that relying simply on machines and not letting the power of the human brain and the creativity behind that to come up with the idea and the strategy, that's where a lot of people are going to go wrong. I think some people are saying, oh, well, if I just have a lot of data and a lot of really smart programmers who write code for me, then, you know, I'm going to solve the world, because that's what Amazon has done. That's what Facebook has done. And I don't think that's the answer. I think that's actually people who are trying to take the easy way out.